spiritual life is phenomenal in its effect. And revolutionary in its every facet. That is the nature of spiritual life. Therefore, if one can sincerely follow the teachings given in the Shastras, given by the great Acharyas, so if one can sincerely follow the principle and the precincts of spiritual life given in the Shastras, then it can eradicate all our problems for eternity. It can mark the culmination of, or it can bring forth the culmination of all the agonies and the troubles and tribulations in this world. So now the question comes is that the spiritual life is all that wonderful and so amazing and revolutionary and phenomenal. So why is not everyone able to take it up? Why is not everyone able to take it up? Or where lies the difficulty? Where is the bottleneck? Where is the bottleneck? Where is the bottleneck? To understand this, we need to understand that yes, all of us, or you can say, conditioned souls are in a state of slumber, spiritual slumber. And the state of spiritual slumber means the state of material intoxication. So that material intoxication creates an inertia. And we can see this inertia in each one of our hearts. So because of this inertia, many effects come up, or many effects or characteristics we can see about this inertia. So one of them is complacency or lethargy when it comes to spiritual undertakings. Procrastination or postponement when it comes to spiritual undertakings. We will see, very simple, just like if there is a decision or if you have a choice, okay, should I read Bhagavad Gita, 10 pages, or should I watch a movie? So you will see one side, or the first side, the former part, there is some sort of complacency. Oh, Bhagavad Gita 5 pages, yes, we'll read, but maybe I can read tomorrow. I mean, no loss, nothing is running away. A movie, oh, maybe I should watch immediately. Yeah? So one may be even tired, but then, so that's the point. Yeah. So that's not just between a decision of whether Bhagavad Gita or movie, but whether study or movie, same feature will come. Let's say, for example, okay, if there is a choice, that okay, the question is okay, whether I should cook or I should take very nice, delicious food. So immediate excitement when it comes to partaking of a delicious food, but partaking delicacies, feast. But when it comes to cooking, one may have some lethargy. Oh, yeah, I don't know so much. So, maybe some others sometime later is another lethargy. So we will see that this is the nature of mind. Actually, there is a state of material intoxication, and that state of material intoxication produces a sense of spiritual slumber, or you can say any mode of goodness activities. There is a lethargy or slumber, which we can see. So therefore, there is inertia of kickstarting, and therefore there is a very prominent feeling in the heart because of material inertia that spiritual subject matters are not so easy to install. How to practice? In my setting, I am an IIT KGP student. I have my ACADs, I have my extra CADs, I have a CGPA, and then I have to learn algorithm and machine learning, and I have to prepare data analytics. So all that maybe, so all that comes up. All that comes up. So therefore, the point. So how does it sink in actually? So we will see, just like for example, even if you want to make a plan of how are you going to complete your syllabus of studies, it requires to go a little bit into the syllabus to at least understand properly what it means, or what that topic means, how wide it is, or what it really is it not? So one needs some sense of understanding to be able to even plan properly. So that means that unless we jump into something, we really cannot even figure out or plan or strategize or organize or anything. It's not possible. So therefore, the first jump is always required. But there is this inertia, how to overcome that. How to overcome that. Rather, you will see, success stories tell us in life, even material success stories, they tell us in life one very prominent thing. That unless you jump, you are not going to see the next step ahead. Just not. You're not going to see the next step ahead. You're not going to see, how to figure out your way. To figure out your way, you have to come on the way and walk along the way for some time. Then the options will become clear. Then your meditation, understanding, absorption on the matrix of the pathway become clear. So this inertia is a very big blockage. And because of which, there is that inherent feeling of retardation when it comes to spiritual practice. So this is the point, actually. All of us want happiness. All of us want, all of us, it is not very difficult to understand the fallacies of the modern day materialistic lifestyle. The kind of animalistic traits which are being fueled in the modern day society. It is not difficult to understand that. Any sane person with a little open-mindedness can understand that. Then why not every sane person with a little open-mindedness not take to intense spiritual life? The reason is this inertia. Because many people are able to appreciate that the spiritual truths are very powerful and they are amazing. But what they are not able to understand is how do we relate them into our day-to-day life. And that is what creates a very huge band gap. So this band gap, one is not able to jump that much because it's a little too much band gap. So that inertia has caused, the material intoxication causes this huge band gap. And therefore, the main problem is, or the main point which comes is how to overcome this band gap. And that is where we understand that spiritual life is impossible to pursue on individual undertaking. So what we need in our lives, along with the concepts, the principles, the vision of the Shastras, we need role models. We need devotees. We need acharyas. We need role models. who can make those principles of the Shastras come out alive on practical grounds. So how to make the principle go alive is not very easy, and it is only by understanding and in that way, meditating, in that way, living with the role models, can we see the principles of Shastras come out alive. And that can give us a tremendous boost in our spiritual life. Tremendous boost in our spiritual life. Therefore, one of the activities, one of the most cherishing and relishable activities, the nourishing activities in spiritual life, is to understand the life of the great acharyas, our role models, Because that which seems so difficult for us, and they have implemented that so easily in their life. So simply by connecting to the acharyas, we can see our lives being filled with, or our hearts getting filled with inspiration. So this is the point, that unless we are able to relate with it, we won't be able to follow. We will not be able to follow. Secondly, Vedas, scriptures, are like an encyclopedia, and because it is like an encyclopedia, it is like a whole pharmacy encyclopedia. So, or you can say, okay, in general, botanical encyclopedia. It has everything. Now, what is it that we need the most? Is a very difficult question, challenging question to understand. So, therefore, it is not wrong to compare the Vedas to a forest. Vedas are like a deep, dense forest, very dense and deep. Deep means once you get into it, there is no end to it. There are so many Vedic philosophies and concepts and principles, and that way Funday. There's so many Funday actually we won't be able to understand what is, once started, where does it end? And we'll not be able to understand which direction we are going. It just goes on expanding. Since there's so many branches, there's so many options, there's so many pathways, what to exactly do. And therefore it leads to a great amount of confusion in that. So Vedas are like a dense forest, because like a dense forest, once you enter, you don't understand where you entered from. You don't understand where you have to go further. It is a very precarious and amazing kind of situation. The same situation is there. The Vedas are like a dense forest. But it is the mercy of the acharyas that what they do in this dense forest, they create a road for us. They create a road for us. So when they create a road for us, it is very easy for us to follow the road, and we just keep walking on the road, we'll reach the other side of the forest, the spiritual road. So this is the point actually. Just like many of you might have gone to Tirupati. So if you go to Tirupati, the Lord Balaji is up the Tirumala hills. Now from the city Tirupati, Tirumala hills going up actually Balaji's temple, Lord Balaji's temple. It takes 1.5 hours walk. 1.5 hours walk if you are if you walk brisk. With the brisk walk, with non-stop brisk walk, maybe you may reach in 1.5 hours, 1 hour 45 minutes or so. Like, but if you walk in a if one walks peacefully, stopping at every counter, the tea counter, the snacks counter, and all that, then it may take 5 hours as well. Then to go up. So the point is that, but the journey is relishable. We're actually climbing up the mountain. The journey is relishable because there is this, the walking pathway is there, proper footpath is there. Up there is tin shed. Side there are so many refreshment counters. You can sit down, you can drink water, you can drink Coca-Cola. You can eat samosa. No problem. Because of that, it's quite relishable. The pathway. Now just imagine the scene of the previous time that there is no road actually, and you have to climb up the mountain. It's a very difficult proposition. There is no road, and you have to climb up the mountain. So Vedas are like that. It's like mountain. They can levitate us. They take us to the spiritual world, the abode of the God, which is on an elevated plane of consciousness. But then you have to climb the mountain. How to climb the mountain? The mountain climb may be quite risky a proposition. So it is the acharyas and the role models who acting as role models, the acharyas who acting as role models, they have made the road for us. And therefore, the path of spiritual life becomes easy, practical, and in that way, relishable, affordable. And that's how we can get the inspiration to following in a sustained manner. So today we want to focus on the life of one of our very great acharyas. Srila Bhasin Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Who cherished in his heart, who preserved the jewels of his spiritual master's teachings in his heart all his life, and who went all over the world to share these jewels with the world. Who made the very teachings and the instructions of his spiritual master, his guru, as his life and soul. To go out into the world and preach in the English language was one instruction he got. Whenever he gets money to print spiritual books was another instruction. And he centered his own life, his whole life as an offering onto his spiritual masters, his Gurudev words and instructions. So we are going to see a video clipping explaining some aspects of the life of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And while you are watching the video, I would request, so while you're watching the video, I would request that whatever aspects of Srila Prabhupada's life you feel inspired by, you can share it while you're watching the video, you can share it in the chat. So it'll be good. So what touches you as you're seeing the video, what touches you when you're seeing the video, or what principles, or what characteristics or what qualities of Srila Prabhupada you get inspired by, you can put it up on the chat as we are seeing along. So we'll see some clipping of the life of Srila Prabhupada, and then we will discuss a bit today after the video clipping. Sure. So thus we start the video clipping on the mantra, the movement, and the Swami who made it all. So Srila Prabhupada's life had been a life of sacrifice, had been a life of sincerity in following the instructions of his guru. Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. If you see, when people think of, at an age where people think of simply retiring and relaxing, Srila Prabhupada was beginning in the most challenging part of his life journey, and that is single-handedly traveling to the West to take this message of Lord Chaitanya, to take this message of Krishna, to help the suffering humanity, to take this healing message, this healing medication of the holy name for everyone, for one and all. And behind this most challenging part of Srila Prabhupada's life, there was a whole life of preparation. Srila Prabhupada prepared for this momentous service throughout his life. So rather, this preparation starts from Srila Prabhupada's father. Srila Prabhupada's father, his name was Gaur Mohan Dey. So Srila Prabhupada's spiritual intensity starts, or much of his spiritual intensity is rooted at the perpetual prayers of his father. Gaur Mohan Dey was a cloth merchant. He had a cloth shop. But Srila Prabhupada explains his main business was to worship Krishna. Hours and hours he would be worshipping Krishna. As you saw in the video, Srila Prabhupada as a small child would get up by the bells of his father worshipping the deities. That was the first impression Srila Prabhupada got. When he started gathering the impressions and consolidating the impressions of his life, what he could gather was his father's ardent submission and worship. And therefore, instead of demanding for toys, Prabhupada requested his father to give him deities of Radha and Krishna. So people spend their childhood watching television or playing with toys. Prabhupada was worshipping Radha and Krishna, the deities given by his father. So Gaur Mohan Dey had a very serious desire that his son can become a devotee of Srimati Radharani. Every single day, Srila Prabhupada's father, Gaur Mohan Dey, would invite dozens of sadhus and would feed them with great humility and heart. And then at the end of serving, at the end of his service, he would request them just one prayer. And his prayer was, please bless my son. Please bless my son that he can become a great devotee of Srimati Radharani. That he can become a great devotee of Srimati Radharani. That's why, if you saw in the video, Srila Prabhupada himself was commenting that Prabhupada had option to become a barrister by going to London, but his father never wanted him to become a person simply focused on making money. His father wanted him actually to become a great devotee of Srimati Radharani, which Prabhupada stood up to. So that was his father's mood. Therefore, Prabhupada actually, so we will see actually that, and therefore Prabhupada used to make a point that my father was a pure devotee of the Lord. And this was a seed, and this was a root which Srila Prabhupada had got. So even when Prabhupada was a very, very small child, his father had arranged for Srila Prabhupada to learn Mridangam. And Prabhupada was so small, both his hands would not reach the two ends of the Mridangam. So Prabhupada would go to one side of the mridangam, play, and then go to the other side and then play, because his hands were so small they would not reach both sides of the mridangam. That was, but it was the Gormohan Day who wanted his son to become a great devotee of Srimati Radharani. So yes, much of the jewels about Krishna consciousness, so Prabhupada explains that many impressions about Krishna consciousness Prabhupada got in his childhood, because what he saw was an example which was so dedicated to Krishna. He saw in his father an example of a devotee whose life is centered around Krishna, and he saw in his father that great ambition or expectation that Prabhupada becomes a great devotee of Krishna. That Srila Prabhupada becomes a great devotee of Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada explains or recalls the experience that when he was a small child, so small that he would not even properly walk, so he would be sitting in his pram or perambulator, and the servant in the house, he would roll the perambulator and bring it on the and bring it out actually on the other side of the road, into the temple of Shri Radha Govinda. So the temple is still there today, near MG Road Metro actually. So there is the house of Malik's, I believe 4 or 5 story building where Srila Prabhupada used to stay. And just opposite of the end of the road, there is this temple of Radha Govinda Ji. And Prabhupada explains that the servant would bring them to the temple, and Prabhupada would be excited for that moment. He would be longing for that moment to go to the temple. And then Prabhupada explains that when he would go to the temple, then Prabhupada explains that he would be taking darshan of the deities for hours and hours and hours. While people would come and go, Srila Prabhupada would be taking darshan of the deities, Radha Govinda, with great heart, with great love, with great affection, with great devotion, as a small baby child sitting in his perambulator. And that was Prabhupada's cherished moment. That was Srila Prabhupada's cherished moment. So this goes to show that yes, Srila Prabhupada was divinely blessed by Srimati Radharani. That very prayer which his father had been harboring for years, and he had been serving so many sadhus, real or fake. Prabhupada's father was serving so many sadhus. That prayer got answered in Srila Prabhupada's sincerity and dedication towards spiritual life. That's why Srila Prabhupada did not ask for toys to play with, but he was asking for, he asked for the deities, and he got the deities of Radha and Krishna. So Prabhupada and his younger sister Bhavatarani, they would be worshipping the deity all day long. That was Srila Prabhupada's 40 proclivity. That was his service proclivity. So there was this time of Ratha Yatra, and Srila Prabhupada had a desire to celebrate Rath Yatra, and Srila Prabhupada wanted to have a Rath Cart procession of his own. And it was Srila Prabhupada's father who went out of his way to fulfill each and every spiritual desire of Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada wanted to have a Rath Cart procession of his own, a Rath Yatra procession of his own. His father went out of the way to arrange a Rath Cart. And hours he was searching, and finally they purchased a small Rath Cart. second-hand small Rath cart. And Prabhupada had a Rath Yatra procession in his locality. And Prabhupada was the leader of the children in the locality, and he arranged, and Prabhupada arranged all the children actually. And then for whole 9 days, this Rath Yatra procession went all around the locality, and Prabhupada was leading this procession, was chanting the holy names, and all his children, friends, and Prabhupada had gathered all the children, and he was leading all of them, and he was engaging all of them in service, and all of them were chanting and moving with the Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra in the small Rath cart in their locality, and they observed this 9-day festival with great pomp and show. And Prabhupada's father, he supported him in all ways by preparing bhoga, by giving him all facilities for this spiritual undertaking. This was Srila Prabhupada's in his childhood. This was his desire. This was his proclivity. This was his desire and proclivity. So we can see right from the beginning of Srila Prabhupada's life that sincerity. And mind it, that is where Srila Prabhupada developed that great attraction and affection for Lord Jagannath. And you're going to see that how Srila Prabhupada took these impressions what he got in his childhood, and he took them all over the world. And Srila Prabhupada went to the West, and then in the next 10 years, when Srila Prabhupada went to the West, and in the next 10 years, Srila Prabhupada established 108 temples in practically all parts of the world, in all continents of the world. 108 temples in 10 years, starting from 1965 to 1977, the next 12 years. And Prabhupada introduced Rath Yatra in every major city of the world. And the Jagannath Rath Yatra. That way Prabhupada took Jagannath's mercy all over the world. And it was these childhood impressions which Srila Prabhupada had got, and the prayers of his father, the endeavors of his father, who was wanting him to become a great devotee of Radharani, Prabhupada's own sincerity. Prabhupada's own sincerity. Srila Prabhupada's own sincerity. Srila Prabhupada explains. So now when Srila Prabhupada was in his youth, and Prabhupada was studying in Scottish Church College, and his friend dragged him to a rented premises of a Bengali Swami. Prabhupada was reluctant, but his friend practically, Narendranath Malik, Prabhupada's friend, practically dragged him. And that was the matha, or that was the matha of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who wanted to preach Lord Chaitanya's message all around India. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had a desire to take this message all around the world. And Prabhupada recounts his first meeting when Srila Prabhupada, by this time Prabhupada was following Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi. He was a Gandhian. He was a very serious Gandhian actually. He was so serious that he was he even sacrificed his degree, his graduation degree. That Swaraj movement. So Prabhupada was a very sincere follower. Whatever he did it very sincerely. He did it ardently. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj was speaking about the message of Lord Chaitanya, and Prabhupada had this question, doubt, that now we are not free, we are not independent. Who will hear this message of spiritual life? First, let us become independent. And Prabhupada explains this experience, that how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, it was shown in the video Prabhupada recalling, That how he smashed him, he refuted him. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj said, whether one power is coming, another power is coming, all that is a temporary situation. All that is temporary. The real self is the spirit soul. No man-made systems can help alleviate the miseries and the agonies of the modern day civilization. It is only revival of one's dormant love for God which can help. All these man-made isms are temporary. So all that can offer is titillation and nothing else. And therefore, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur Maharaj is telling that this dependence, independence is all a temporary game. It's all a temporary. That will not solve the problems. There is only one thing which is lacking in this world, Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur Maharaj said, and that is there is a need. What is lacking in this world is Krishna consciousness. What people need is Krishna consciousness, and therefore he said the urgency in this world is to give the eternal medicine, not some painkillers. The eternal medicine of Krishna consciousness. And Srila Prabhupada, for him, this was such a memorable moment where he was saying that his logic and argument was getting smashed and refuted. And Prabhupada was so happy about being defeated. And Prabhupada was so ecstatic in having found a genuine person who is dedicated to the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And Prabhupada's exclamation was that yes, he has found his guru, he has found his spiritual master. He had seen so many sadhus because right from his childhood, his father was inviting so many sadhus. But now he saw, but now he was meeting a real genuine sadhu. Prabhupada could put his faith, and Prabhupada could understand he is my spiritual master. And Prabhupada said, yes, I'm so happy to say that the Lord Chaitanya's message is there in the right hands. Then and there, Srila Prabhupada decided that I want to serve in the mission of this great spiritual leader. This great spiritual leader, actually. So the next aspect is the ABC, and thus Prabhupada started the ABC of his services. Prabhupada started the ABC of his services. So Prabhupada was just thinking about the service of his spiritual master in wherever he was. So Srila Prabhupada started as the owner of Prayag Pharmacy in Allahabad, and Prabhupada was a very respectable person, and he was he knew all the respectable and rich people in Allahabad. And Srila Prabhupada, what he would do in the Prayag Pharmacy, Prabhupada would invite so many rich and prestigious and important and learned and educated people from his contacts, and he would invite all of them to the temple setup. The temple setup was called as Gaudiya Math. To the temple setup, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Thakur's disciples, two of his disciples had established. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj had sent two of his disciples to set up a center in Allahabad. And Srila Prabhupada wanted to serve. When he saw that these devotees came, Prabhupada was so happy. Every evening he would bring many important men of Allahabad to these devotees for them to preach. So even when Srila Prabhupada was a responsible in his family life. But Srila Prabhupada was a successful businessman, pharmacist. And his Prayag pharmacy was running and making a lot of success. But Srila Prabhupada's heart and his consciousness and his absorption was in how he can serve. So slowly times change because ups and downs keep coming. And now Prayag pharmacy, Prabhupada's got some met some unexpected accidents, and his company got on fire. He suffered a lot of losses because of that. And now Prabhupada was searching for a job, and to search for a job, he went to Bombay. So Prabhupada was looking for some financial stability. He went to Bombay to search a job, and as soon as he landed in Bombay, Srila Prabhupada, he was himself settling down, trying to search a job. And out there he saw, or he met, or he collided with, or he banged into two of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur disciples, sannyasi disciples. And they had come to Bombay to start a preaching center there, to preach in Bombay. And Srila Prabhupada was so happy to see them. And Srila Prabhupada supported them like anything. So Prabhupada was not himself fixed in his job, but Srila Prabhupada was trying to raise funds for the temple. No, there was no temple. Prabhupada was raising funds. Prabhupada was getting people, for preaching to them, bringing them to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's these two disciples, sannyasi disciples, so that they can preach. Srila Prabhupada was searching the land. Srila Prabhupada got the land, got the building construction done, got many people introduced to the temple. And finally, there was this temple opening. So Srila Prabhupada had done everything. And by the way, alongside all that, he also got job. He started working in Smith Industries. Srila Prabhupada was working for, But Prabhupada never said, okay, here is an intense phase in my life. I am facing a financial crisis. How can I give time for spiritual life? Prabhupada's life was dedicated to spiritual life. And Prabhupada would become so excited when he would get somebody, or he would meet somebody who wants to know, who is eager to know about the spiritual message. So when this temple opening, the temple was getting opened, the center was getting opened, the inauguration ceremony, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj came. And these two sannyasi disciples of his, they were telling Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that why don't you make, Srila Prabhupada's name was Abhay Charan that time. Abhay Charan was his name, which his father gave him. So Prabhupada's name was Abhay Charan. And then the sannyasi disciples, they told that why don't you make Abhay Charan as the president of this Bombay center? And that time Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, he said that don't worry, when the right time comes, he will do everything. He will do everything. So one time, Srila Prabhupada, it was the birthday celebration of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Prabhupada wrote a poem to glorify his spiritual master. And Prabhupada in the poem, he had written that, "O spiritual master, your mission." So he had written a very nice poem. So few stanzas in that. He had written, "Absolute is sentient, thou hast proved. Impersonal calamity thou hast removed." Absolute is sentient. God is a person. You have proved that. Impersonal calamity thou hast removed. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur saw that. He was so happy. He said, "This boy, whatever he writes, please publish it. He has understood my heart. He has understood my mission. He has understood my message." That was Srila Prabhupada, completely dedicated. And then times changed. Prabhupada went back to Calcutta. Now Prabhupada was having a small pharmaceutical outlet, but Prabhupada was giving more time for preaching and writing. The Prabhupada was writing commentaries on Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. And it is explained that Prabhupada would be ready to preach to anyone and give any amount of time to anyone when he was in Calcutta. Although he was running a pharmacy, but then Prabhupada was writing books. Prabhupada was starting to write because that was the instruction given by his spiritual master. So Prabhupada was writing articles. Then he started Back to Godhead magazine, as you saw in the video. And this was Srila Prabhupada's struggle. So the ABC, and then Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada actually went to, he got an acquaintance, he got a calling from Jhansi, and he saw that actually some people are favorable. And then Prabhupada made a whole plan of preaching in Jhansi. And Prabhupada made a plan that he will start his headquarters in Jhansi. And Prabhupada did all the arrangements. He did all the arrangements. He got a place. They took the place. It was a nice temple structure. And Prabhupada made the whole charter. Prabhupada got the movement incorporated. And from there, Prabhupada was going to Delhi to meet important personalities to seek help, to preach to them. Prabhupada was going for the printing of the magazine. Prabhupada was distributing the magazine. And Prabhupada was writing books. And it was flourishing very nicely. And then Prabhupada came back to Calcutta to get the deities. By the time he came back, he saw that actually I believe the wife of the governor, she got eyes on that building, and through her political power, she took over that building. So Prabhupada's dream of starting the building got crushed. Jhansi. The Prabhupada thought that from Jhansi he will train people and he will send them all over the world, and this way he would preach in the world. But the ground below his feet was taken away. So Prabhupada took the temple. Prabhupada, did preaching there, and Prabhupada was just out for a few weeks. He came back and he saw that his property has been eyed on, and his property was snatched by the wife of the governor, who wanted to start some ladies club there, women center there, women training center or some skills center there. So that's what Prabhupada was. So in that precarious situation, Prabhupada went for some time to Mathura, and then he again went to Delhi. So there was this time that now Srila Prabhupada was writing his books. So Prabhupada was in Delhi for a good amount of time now, and Srila Prabhupada was trying to distribute Back to Godhead magazine. And Prabhupada was living in extreme poverty conditions at this point of time. There was no help for him. Alone he was struggling. He would save money. He would not even take a rickshaw. He would save money. He would sometimes not even take breakfast. He would save money. And that money he would use to print books, because that was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's desire. That was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's desire. And in this way, Srila Prabhupada was struggling. And then for some time, Srila Prabhupada was in Vrindavan. And he was writing commentaries of Bhagavatam. In between, he was going to Delhi. And whenever he would get the opportunity, he would print magazines and he would personally distribute in tea stalls and anywhere. And he would meet important people. Prabhupada had such a spirit. He wanted the Back to Godhead magazine to become as famous as the illustrator. Prabhupada had such a spirit at this age. He had no funds, he had no backing, he was all alone. He didn't even have money to buy a new pair of dhoti kurta for himself. But he had that spirit. And he already attempted, his attempts had failed. The very ground on which he was standing in Jhansi was taken away from him. But Prabhupada, had that ardent desire. And then he understood that he wants to go to the West. And this way he was preparing to go to the West. And then finally, as the video shows, Srila Prabhupada met Srimati Muraraji, who was not initially helping, but then she agreed to help. And in this way, Srila Prabhupada set on Jaladuta for Boston. Srila Prabhupada, single-handedly, Srila Prabhupada headed on Jaladuta for Boston. So it was almost a month of sailing actually, because it was a cargo ship and Srila Prabhupada was all alone. And as soon as the voyage started, Srila Prabhupada. So what was Srila Prabhupada carrying with him? He was carrying 40 Indian rupees with him, 4040. And he was carrying trunks and trunks of Srimad Bhagavatam. First canto, translations and purport Srila Prabhupada had written. And Prabhupada was carrying trunks and trunks of Srimad Bhagavatam. And he was out there, the fag end of his life, to go and stand by the instructions of his spiritual master. So in this 1 month journey, Srila Prabhupada suffered severe seasickness as soon as the journey started, as soon as the Jaladuta started. Because it was sea. Sea is generally quite rough. Sea is generally quite rough. And to spend 30 days in sea is generally quite rough. And Prabhupada in his delicate, fragile age in a cargo ship, and Prabhupada suffered acute seasickness, dizziness, vomiting. In this 1 month journey, Srila Prabhupada suffered 2 heart attacks, one after another. He suffered 2 heart attacks. And at the end of it, Srila Prabhupada had a dream in which he saw Lord Chaitanya, in which he saw Lord Nityananda, in which he saw all the great acharyas. All of them were pulling Srila Prabhupada's ship. And in this dream, Srila Prabhupada understood that they are his grace, and Srila Prabhupada understanding, accepting himself to be the servant, to be the instrument in the hands of the Lord, Prabhupada was willing to undergo any hardships. But his mission was fixed to spread Krishna consciousness, to spread this message all over the world. Prabhupada said, I had no qualifications. Srila Prabhupada said, I had no qualifications. He said, my only qualification was that I had great faith in the words of my spiritual master. He said, I had great faith in the Bhagavatam. I had great faith in the holy names of the Lord. I had great faith in the holy names of the Lord. And therefore, you see, when nothing was clicking, Srila Prabhupada just sat down in Tompkins Square Park and he was just chanting Hare Krishna. And he was just chanting Hare Krishna with closed eyes intensely. And he opened his eyes, he saw some boys and girls who were sitting and they were clapping with him. And Prabhupada chanted further with them. Prabhupada invited them. For a class, Prabhupada spoke to them. Prabhupada spoke to them. And that's what you saw in the video. The Prabhupada was staying in a very, on a terrace actually. He was, but then Prabhupada's typewriter was stolen. The room partner with whom Prabhupada was staying, David, and Prabhupada thought he is very, sincere. The David, one day, being high on a dose of drug, David tried to murder Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada had to run for his life. Then it is, as was explained in the video, Prabhupada went to Mukunda, and Mukunda arranged, Mukunda Maharaj. Mukunda Maharaj arranged for that time Mike, his name was. So he arranged for this 22nd Second Avenue, the Matchless Gift storefront, from where Prabhupada started taking 3 classes a week, and that's how the movement. That's how the American boys and girls slowly started showing interest, seeing Srila Prabhupada's intense devotion, dedication, and service attitude. So what followed next, and how it created such a powerful impact, and what transformation and what degree of transformation it brought about, and how Srila Prabhupada's efforts of servitude brought fruits, and how it attracted the grace of Krishna to affect and hit the lives of millions of people. That we will see in our next class next week. So when we see the second part of the video, and we will go further and we see further aspects or further amazing ventures, or you can say the climax of Srila Prabhupada's lifetime of preparation in servitude and dedication. So we'll stop here and we will continue again in our next class. Thank you. Hare Krishna.